They're two demonic beings that also are evil and wicked. What do those demons demand? They demand death. They demand blood. Um, so that's what is going to come out in the hospital. I'll just say if there's sensitive ears, this may be a moment you want to bleep out this part or cover your ears. But, you know, you've got all these organizations working together. So let's just say, what the hospital classifies as therapeutic abortions. Um, these are things where, due to medical reasons, some of them are legit, some are not. Some of it is a matter of persuasion. The people the nurses that work with those doctors, they're taught to speak a certain way to the patient because their goal is to get numbers. They want to perform a certain amount of therapeutic abortions a month. Now, I would question people to look into your hospitals, look into their policies, procedures. Do they actually state those quotas to the doctors about how many patients they need to be seeing on average a month? That's a quota. Um, so think about that. There's actually a quota for the doctors performing therapeutic abortions. That should make people sick because we know that
Yeah.
Um,
things randomly happen in real time. Let's say we're talking the legitimate here. There are, pregnancies, fallopian pregnancies. That's something you can't help, so I'm not saying I agree with abortions. I'm just trying to walk us through this process. There may be
Yes.
legitimate reasons where a woman would have to do that in order to save her life. That's between her and God. Um, but how many of those actually happen on a regular basis? For these doctors to be able to meet their quotas, I'm saying that, we have the proofs that we know scientifically it doesn't happen enough to warranty their quotas that they have to make. So, what's their other target? Their other target, is that they're going to start, part of the care plan. So, this goes back to the insurance companies. It goes back to those who are driving the health care plans that we have to buy because, you know, we have to be covered. If we can't buy them and purchase them, well, then the state is going to nicely give you one for free. Why are they doing that? Because it's helping them meet their quotas. And so the insurance companies dictate those quotas. Well, who are the insurance company heads working under or for? This connects with even, the underground breeder programs. They want numbers, okay? It gets much more nefarious than that. There are some testimonies out there, of, people, nurses who worked with abortion doctors in the abortion clinics. Um, there's, I encourage people, look for those testimonies. There's even Satanists who have come out, um, who have shared their stories about what happens in these times. Um, most of the time, they will put the women under light sedatives now, so that, I believe it's because there's more nefarious things happening, that they don't want these women to really remember what happened in that situation. Later, I encourage women who, I've um, had many of these stories that after women have had procedures, for those things, that then, maybe a couple of years down the road, they'll start to get flashbacks. They'll start to get nightmares. They'll start to see things, um, in the spirit world. Some of them will get this overwhelming feeling that my baby's not gone. Um, listen to that. Listen to that and seek it out with the Lord because, as Chantel stated, this is so nefarious. These individuals are, kidnapping babies at birth. They're inducing premature births. They are documenting, legally documenting false deaths. And then they are selling these children on the black market, the underground market, whether that's for, them to go into an elite home because they've been chosen to be raised up in a certain position, or whether that's to be sold for sexual exploitation, or whether that's to be sold for ritual use. Um, you know, what is the youngest child sold for sexual exploitation? I will propose that they do use newborns. And if they're inducing premature births at 24 weeks, you better believe that the enemy is doing stuff to those 24 weekers. Um, these are viable little children that they are causing torture on. Some of them even younger, 18 weeks and younger. But if we watched live on news as some of our representatives in our government were pushing for abortions, but beyond abortions at the time of birth, they went farther and said, okay, now we're going to push infanticide. So that's killing a baby after it's born. They put time frames on that. That's now, I believe, been revoked. But, these are the same people that have been pushing for these type of things to commit crimes against our infants that are in the womb and that are brand new born. I've shared this story in the past, but, one of the most prolific abuses that I witnessed to a newborn was with the experiments and projects under John O'Brennan. And, they had gorillas, apes that, they would do the same things to these animals with the infants, where, you know, gorilla mothers are very passionate, very loving, very tender, and they would have their babies that would be born, and either the baby would be killed or, given shots, and the mother then would be grieving, and they then would give her a human baby to replace it. And for that mother, they don't turn away those babies because it's not their own. Those mother gorillas are so passionate that they would take that in. But the male gorillas would know it's not theirs, and they would do things then to those infants, rip them right out of the mother gorilla's arms and kill them in front of her. And, you know, this is how sick these people are. And you have to ask, where did they get that infant? Where did they get that little baby that was killed in this incident? They've not only traumatized a gorilla twice, but where did they get that infant from? Why are they pushing all of a sudden these, the concept or the thought that they have these, artificial wombs? Do we really believe that's the only place that they're getting these infants, that they're creating them just to destroy them? No. They have witches and high-level warlocks that work as doctors, nurses, social workers, funeral home directors, funeral homes. They coordinate even down to the point of turning these kids into diamonds to make profit off of them. Now, I'm not saying that happens with everybody, but it they have a business off of this. And, we are being exploited because we don't understand the behind the scenes. Um, you know, some of the other things I witnessed is that, when they really wanted a child and they were separating from the family, it depended on every situation was different. But they have drugs that can make it seem like the body is dead and not breathing. But the heart is still barely going, the body's still getting oxygen. This drug is brought out in a famous play that we all know, Romeo and Juliet. And what happened? The drug was given for a time so that they thought she had died, but then she wasn't dead. So, do they use this drug for in the pediatrics, in the the different areas in order for the families to believe that the child is really dead. In my own experience, they did this with my training partner where they faked his death and it was so real. And, the realest part was that he and I had a spiritual connection. And the moment that there was no possible way for them to have survived that fire, all of a sudden that spiritual connection was gone. And, you know, so that meant I wasn't sensing him. I couldn't hear his voice in the spirit. So I believed that he was dead. And that's what they get. They get these family members to earnestly believe. Um, they come in. So imagine this after they have given drugs, um, they orchestrate an end of life event where, they will wrap the baby up, make the body presentable, put the baby in the mother's arms, in the father's arms. They know how much time they have before things are shown or, you know, before signs should happen. So they limit the time the family can spend with that infant. Um, and then they'll take it away to be held in a cooler somewhere or refrigerator for little ones until the funeral homes come and pick up the body. Then the family's dealing directly with the funeral home to receive the ashes or for the viewings if they do that. Um, so there are places during those times or moments where you have the right to see that body so that you can know that your loved one has indeed passed away. So who's their other target besides healthy children? The enemy really wants to destroy children with disabilities. Um, so they will
What?
target, yeah, they will target children with disabilities. And, this is going to break people's hearts. And I'm not saying, um, again, all are involved in this, but there are orders within the system. Um, we're getting into the dark porn, the dark torture, the dark side of the system. This is some of the connections to the circuses, um, and that dark porn ring where they look for people who are disfigured. They look for people with disabilities. Um, and there are people who pay a whole lot of extra money to see those individuals um, raped, tortured, killed, um, and that's their dark porn. They look for the maimed and disfigured. So, you know, it just continues to get darker from there.